14 years in the NFL. Played behind Drew Brees, Justin Herbert, Matthew Stafford, Carson Wentz, Alex Smith. You have had one career, undrafted, by the way.
Yep.
So when you saw Brock Purdy last year as a seventh-round pick, you're probably thinking, seventh rounder, what a steal. Let's start with the quarterback rooms. I've heard this time and time again, Chase, about you. Get Chase in your quarterback room. You were just in Justin Herbert's quarterback room. For the average fan, I've always said personality matters a lot, temperament.
Yep.
And let's take Herbert, Brees, Stafford. Let's start with Drew Brees.
Yep.
What was the quarterback room like with him?
I mean, my first year, think about this, it was Drew Brees and Mark Brunell, who's now, quarterback coach for Detroit, but like two living legends. And I'm coming over from Washington, and I'm like, this is what it's supposed to be like in a quarterback room. So it was awesome. The time there was amazing. I mean, I was like their little brother. So I would always be the one that gets picked on. They'd always give me crap. They'd always do this. They'd always make me go do donuts. But I served my time, had a good time with it. And then when Mark left in 2009, or after 2009, 2010, I won the backup job and was there with Drew for 3 more years. And it was great. I mean, he taught me a lot about the game. He taught me everything sort of I knew, taught me the routine. I thought I watched a lot of film, before we went in, and then seeing him and what he's able to do and that whole coaching staff just really, it really set the tone for my NFL career.
So then you've also been in a situation where you have a great quarterback and the wrong coach, Matt Patricia, good guy. But when you, so as fans are watching this, when you hire a coach and it's not the guy, did you know instantly with Patricia, Stafford, and the Lions?
Well, Matthew and I are close friends, so him and I are like tight. So it was cool. We both grew up in Dallas. He played high school ball the same time I did, like 20 miles down the road. He played at Highland Park. I played at Southlake. So we had that going for us. And I came in the third year of the Matt Patricia realm. And so you could tell, like immediately walking in, that there was something off. And not in like a horrible way, because I was excited about it. It was a good deal. I thought we could be good. You could sense it when you walked in the building. And that's why I think Dan Campbell is so welcome there. Like in the ownership, he's just such a different hire than Matt Patricia. Now, Matt Patricia is a great guy, awesome guy. At times, he struggled to communicate with the team. And listen, I was only with him for 4 or 5 times, 4 or 5 games before he got fired. Darrell Bevell took over. But I had a good time there. It was a learning experience for sure, but you could tell like it was toward the end of his time there.
Okay, there's been a lot of speculation. Brandon Staley's young, get a new guy. You were in with Justin Herbert. You hear varying stories. You're in that quarterback room. When rumors came out, players were a little semi-mutiny on Brandon Staley. The older veterans didn't buy it. What were you making of those rumors?
That they weren't true, really, because in my time there, which was 2 years, at the start of the Brandon Staley era for LA, he's been nothing but amazing. And we were talking about this earlier. Like he's a go-getter. First of all, like guys love that. He's a players coach. And what do I mean by player? Everyone talks about players. Well, he listens to the players. He takes advice from the players. But overall, like he's going to make the decision. There's no pointing fingers. There's no any of that. He takes full accountability for all of his actions, and he tries to put the players in the best light possible. We went through some ups and downs there, and when started last year, we weren't winning a lot of games. He kept us together. Did well. Everyone was calling for his head when we lost to Jacksonville, and I get that, but I think they're going to do something special this year. I do. I mean, they go in, bring Kellen Moore in. He's a defensive guru. Our defense started playing really well
at the end of the year.
When we got healthy.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't understand this. Like Justin was not healthy most of the year. We knew that with the ribs, everything. It affects the labrum, like all that stuff. Like it affects how you are as a quarterback, and there was a lot of factors at play there. So I didn't necessarily think, even from the inside story, right? Like I didn't think the criticism was fair.
All right, let's go to the draft. Let's talk about size. So you're about 6'1".
6 foot.
Okay, 6 feet, because I'm 6'1.5", and I'm slightly taller, and about 225.
Yep.
And I've said this before. Bryce Young looks small in college. So you tell me, the first time you're a 225, 230-pound guy.
Yep.
You got some pudding. I want my quarterbacks to have pudding.
Yeah.
Trent Dilfer said that.
Get some padding on you. Yeah.
You go to your first year. The hits feel different? Are you concerned about Bryce Young's size?
Well, the game is much faster. We talked about it. The game in general is much faster. I'm not necessarily concerned about how tall Brice is. Like there's quarterbacks that can do that. It's not necessarily the size that matters as far as, how tall you are. What I am a little bit worried about, and we talked about this, was the size of how much he weighs.
185?
185. Now he measured 209, 210 at the combine, right? Something like that. He must have drank a ton of water, ate a ton of food or something. Like he just like you're seeing it here, he does not look like he's 209. Now, we talked about this a lot. How is he going to respond to the stresses of the NFL season? And what I mean by that, he's going to be working out a lot. The mental stress, the emotional stress, everything about that weighs in. You're going to lose some weight. You're going to lose weight. You're going to get back to what you probably played at college, which I'm guessing is, soaking wet, 185, which isn't super small. It's not big for a quarterback. Now, is he going to be the Lamar Jackson type where he doesn't take hits? We haven't seen him take a lot of hits in college.
Right. Or
is he going to be, we talked about this, the Justin Herbert first or second year, just running over people. I don't think he's going to be that. He's got to protect. And he's the best quarterback in the draft. It's not even close in my opinion. And so if you're Carolina and you're taking him, you gotta be able and you got to be aware of, hey, his size, protecting him, and also from day one say you got to get down if you are in trouble.
So Anthony Richardson is the best athlete. One of the things that worries me, he misses a lot of layups, is that you got to get about 7 layups. I saw this early with Zach Wilson. You can't miss stuff in the flat. It's got to be 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
The league gives you about 7 of those a game. You got to complete those.
Got to.
And then half of the other tough throws. So you get to about 64%, you're fine. Have you ever seen guys that come in and are inaccurate? I think Niners having an issue with Trey Lance and become accurate. I mean, you tell me. What have you seen?
Josh Allen, Wyoming, was not super accurate in college. Now, was it the win? Was it Wyoming? I don't know. When I look at Anthony Richardson, I look at like premier athlete. Now, I'm not saying he's a bad quarterback. He's probably going to go in the first round and he's going to be great. But he hasn't had a lot of time playing the game. And like you said, we sort of break it down like what we do, at least at the chart. You break it down like, hey, 0 to 8 yards throwing depth, then 8 to 20, then 20 plus. The 20 plus, if you complete 30% of your balls, 20, 25 yards on the field, that's really good, right? In intermediate, you want to be at 65, 70, and you better be over 95% on that 0 to 8.
And that's what I see a lot of missing.
And you're spot on, and there is a lot of misses. Now, I don't know the scheme plays into it. I don't know how all the other circumstances. He played with really good skill player, but he is a guy to me that I don't think, I could be wrong, but I don't think he's going to come in and play right away. He's going to be that Aaron Rodgers, sit a year or two, or the Patrick Mahomes, sit a year, learn. You got to be willing. If you're investing a first-round pick in this guy, as an NFL GM, as an NFL organization, you better be ready to teach him and to let him learn and to let him sit. He might be pressed into action, but it's going to be interesting to see what happens. That's for sure.
So Aaron Rodgers goes to the Jets, and we were talking this yesterday. New York's fascinating. So when you come into New York as a star, A-Rod, Carmelo Anthony, John Carlos Stanton, when you come at Jeremy Shockey or Mark Sanchez were college stars, it's always bumpy. When you come in, Aaron Judge, Eli Manning, Derek Jeter, and you kind of strong families, kind of low profile, you may have grown up in smaller towns, it tends to work.
Yeah.
Because New York adds so much energy. If you're already a star,
there's no doubt.
It's hard.
Yeah.
And so the guys that have, kind of quiet personalities, Eli, Jeter, Aaron Judge, walk in, not sure exactly what you have, all of a sudden become stars in New York. It's different. So Aaron comes in, there's a vaccine stance. There's the big personality.
Yep.
There is the I'm going to retire. This thing could get inflamed very quickly. How do you think, what does it look like in year one?
Well, what a great question. And I love the Eli Manning thing because he was just so quiet. Now you see him like blossoming.
That's right.
After the game's done because he's actually got out of his comfort zone and actually is really funny, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But getting back to A-Rod, I just think that great point by you, but it's hard to fit into a market like that because there's so much scrutiny. There's so much pressure on every single thing that you do. I was in Philly for 1 year. Philly's like crazy
media.
I would almost say almost crazier than New York.
I think it is, because I think they want to prove they're tougher than New York.
Yes.
So the talk radio's angrier.
Yes. Well, in general, the whole city's angry, but that's a whole nother story. But I remember my first practice, Doug Peterson's first practice, Carson Wentz, Sam Bradford, myself, were the quarterback room. This was before Sam got traded away to Minnesota in 2016. I remember there were 100 beat writers, pool reporters on the sideline. And I look over to our media guy at the time and I said, are those like fans, like just extra? Oh no, that's media. I go, for what? It was an OTA practice. I go, for what? Oh, just to cover the team, whatever. We go, it's an OTA practice, mind you. Helmets, that's it. We go in, they charted every single one of our throws, misses, touchdowns, incompletion, all that stuff. And I go, are you crazy? So you got to imagine, like, that's the type of scrutiny, if not more, that Aaron Rodgers, Zach Wilson, oh, by the way, you bring him into this whole thing once again. We saw what Joe Douglas said about him and how it's going to be this best thing to ever happen for him. But, my opinion is, like, you gotta get there. You gotta be at OTAs. That's what we were talking about off camera.
So now, Aaron,
are you gonna be at OTAs or not?
Yeah, no, Aaron, J-Mac, didn't you say Aaron is now committing to OTAs with the Jets?
Not fully committed, but it sounds like he expects to be here this summer during those events.
That seems substantial.
That seems like a big, substantial news to me, because he knows the offense. Him and Hackett, best friends. He's got to teach the entire team and organization exactly how he wants. It reminds me of Peyton Manning when he went to Denver. He was amazing in one Super Bowl, and he went to Denver and he said, hey, listen, we're going to work together. I'm going to coach you up, and it's going to look exactly how I want it to look like. So the onus falls on all the Jets skill players now, all the running backs, all the tight ends, all the receivers to really buy in. And it's not going to be hard to buy in with a first ballot Hall of Famer, 4-time MVP, right? But it's going to be a little rocky. It always seems to be to start. But once they figure it out, I mean, their defense might have to carry them half the season till they get things going off, and I think it'll be good. I was talking with some people. I mean, you like them to win 11 games, over under 11. It's like, hey, like, that'd be a really good year, a couple games deep into the playoffs. Like, that'll be great. But when you trade what you traded for an 18-year veteran quarterback in New York, like, you better win. You better win now. This isn't a 4 or 5 year plan. Like, he's got 2-3 years, and you better make it work. You better be like Tom Brady-esque.
Yeah, in Tampa.
Yeah.
So you've had Sean Payton, Andy Reid, Doug Peterson, offensive coaches, Dennis Allen, Brandon Staley, defensive coaches. So, I have said what worried me when Chicago hired Matt Eberflus. Not that he's not smart, but I do feel that offensive coaches, I mean, Brady said this about Belichick, like, they just don't get the language.
Yeah.
And that's why I think it's important that Brandon Staley hired Shane Steichen, super bright, or inherited him.
Yep.
And then now he's going to get Kellen Moore.
Yep.
A lot of so I think one of the things I look at, whoever Carolina drafts, you get Frank Reich. He's had Phillip. He's had Wentz. He's had Luck. I think, you take me to your career, offensive coaches for a quarterback, head coaches, the room's different.
Oh, the room's completely different, because the defensive coach I had, they don't even exist in the quarterback room. Now, Brandon Staley is different. He Patricia never came in whatsoever. Brandon Staley will come in. He's like, oh man, I'm the head guy. Finally, I can just do what I want. I could come sit in these meetings finally. Like, I'm not the defensive coordinator. I'm not the outside linebacker coach in Chicago. Like, he was there and involved, and it was actually, like, really cool. Is different than any experience I've had. But with offensive coaches in general, the room is different. I was with Frank Reich for a year in 2016. He was offensive coordinator in Philly, and he is so bright. It's so hard to explain to people that don't know Frank. He is such a bright mind, and I've said this before, and I'll say it again. Like, when you have a head coach that has not only played in the league,
but played the position,
and, oh, by the way, owns like 2 of the most dramatic, craziest comebacks in college and NFL history, understands what it takes at an early age to be successful. Like, that is a situation as a rookie quarterback, Bryce Young, whoever that goes first. That's what I'm hoping for and being around. And then you look at the McCown hire, like, that's amazing too. Like, they are fully gearing up for a rookie quarterback to start and play well. And then Andy Dalton as well. Like, it all seems to fit. They've done it right.
Yeah,
They've done
Carolina's done it right.
They've done it right.
They're
Truly
give
believe.
A total safety net. That's what worries me on Chicago. It's not that Eberflus can't coach.
Yep.
Defensive guys don't even talk the same language.
No.
They just don't.
No.
So I want to talk about Jordan Love. My prediction has been he's not a top 8 guy, because if he was, they wouldn't have signed. You'd have seen it already through 2 years of practice. Yeah. You don't sign Aaron in March to the big deal.
Yeah.
He's also not going to be a total whiff, or they wouldn't have moved off Aaron. So the size is good, the mobility is good, and he knows the culture. J-Mac has pointed this out. All the video we get is underneath stuff. He's never thrown it between. We don't see anything between the backers and the safeties. Yep. It's all flat underneath stuff, and it's really a lot of guys.
Vanilla.
Hey, a lot of guys just can't make those throws.
Yeah.
What do you hear, and what are your projections on him?
Well, first and foremost, like, they wouldn't have traded Aaron Rodgers away if they didn't have belief in Jordan Love.
So they have
first
to
and foremost, they have to believe, and not only that, but you do not go out and sign a veteran quarterback that's a bridge guy either to let him compete. That's to me the most interesting thing. Like, the whole offseason, it was going toward Aaron Rodgers is leaving. Like, a lot. So in my mind, like, I put on my agent hat. I'm like, all right, what quarterback is going to Green Bay? Is it Andy Dalton? Is it Case Keenum? Is it somebody? No, they have no one.
No one.
They don't have anyone. And so to me, that just tells me that the front office in Green Bay, they better get this right. They don't have anyone else. They're really good offensively. And now that offense, I will say, in general, like, they're throwing slant flat 90% of the time. And that's just that offense in general, play action stuff. And you're showing it here. He played really well in the Philly game.
They have 2 good backs and a good O-line. They'll run the ball.
And LaFleur will be great with it, but it's going to take some time. I don't think you're going to see, hey, you set for 2-3 years, you're just going to see this Aaron Rodgers ascent. There's no way. He's not that type of player. But he can be successful in the system, and sometimes good offensive coaches, or head coach in this situation, can hide certain weaknesses of quarterbacks to make them their strength. So we'll see how it goes. But the biggest tell to me that they love him is they didn't sign a veteran quarterback. Like, that to me, like, you knew Aaron Rodgers was going. At least sign a bridge. No, it's his job. So.
Finally, you were undrafted, but you were the Big 12 Offensive Player of the Year in 2007. So you had a great college career, but you weren't tall enough. You didn't move enough, blah, blah, blah. So Brock Purdy took Iowa State, and as a freshman, win. He leaves, even with a good coach.
Yeah.
They cave.
Yeah.
So when he got drafted, you're probably looking at it thinking, I know what he's going through. Nobody believes in this guy. He's a little shorter than you want.
Yeah.
Were you surprised how good he was?
I mean, everyone was. If you're not, then you're not actually following the game. Like, you look at the Mr. Irrelevant pick, you're like, Brock Purdy, oh, okay. Like, he might not even make the team or whatever. And then he's the third guy. You got Jimmy G, you got Trey Lance, and then all of a sudden he's hurt. He's the second guy, and all of a sudden, Trey Lance, Jimmy G's hurt. You're like, oh, he's starting, and he played amazing his first game. And you just kept hearing all this stuff come up, like, hey, in practice, he's been showing out. He's been, the situation's not too big for him. He's had really good practice reps. He's got a lot of swagger. To me, when I hear the word swagger, confidence around a quarterback, I get excited about it, because even if you don't believe it in your head, when you walk into the huddle, you got to have that swagger and that confidence for grown men to believe in you as a 21-year-old 7th-round pick. And so he earned that. Now, we got to see how his surgery goes. But, I mean, I love the way he plays the game. You look back and actually really study, which I've done, because I've done some stuff for NFL Network. I've studied his game. He's making tough throws. They're not just like underneath dink doink to, they do have amazing skill players, right? Yeah. But he's throwing the ball down the field. He's extending plays with his feet. He's fighting George Kittle, all these people. And so I've been, personally impressed with it. Now, the ulnar nerve is nothing to deal with in your elbow. And obviously he had surgery on it. And so how does that affect? How does it affect your grip? I mean, right when that happened in the Philly game, I knew it, because I suffered not like crazy like that, but in a Seattle game in preseason a couple years ago, like, I got hit right on the funny bone, right on the nerve. I could not grip a ball for a half. And it went away finally, but like I knew exactly how he got hit, where he got hit, how he was holding it, the massage that they were doing. Like right away, you knew. It's like, oh man, like I really hope it's not torn, but we'll see how the rehab goes. But that's a serious injury.
Great stuff. Chase Daniel, been in this league, free agent right now, 14 years, first time on the show. Love having you here. He's down in beautiful San Diego. It's great having you in, man. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having us in. Appreciate
You
it.
bet. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.